Kevin Durant's much criticized move OKC to Golden State has also been a spiritual journey for the Finals MVP. He's become very outspoken on loyalty in the NBA, on politics, and now he's talking to the San Jose Mercury News about how basketball helped him avoid systematic oppression. Quote, "I didn't have it as rough as some do as far as it comes to social or systematic oppression or any social issues. They didn't really apply to me because I could put a ball in a basket." Just me saying that kind of woke me up a little bit, like, damn, that's all I'm good for. Like, if I wasn't a basketball player, what kind of man would they look at me as? You know what I'm saying? Stephen A., your reaction.
Well, he's absolutely right. We appreciate Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and others who have the courage and are socially conscientious enough to speak out on issues such as this. And to be quite honest with you, while I applaud them, I also want to say it's really no excuse for them not to. When you've made hundreds of millions of dollars and you're set not just for the rest of your life, but for generations, if you don't have the courage to speak up at that particular moment in time, when in God's name will you? Everybody hasn't been willing to do that. Everybody is a bit different, and we understand that. But we applaud them for their willingness to do it. And let's get into the weeds of what he is speaking to. He talked about bouncing a basketball and his greatness of playing the game of basketball, and that's why he's privileged. So he asked the question, is that all I'm good for? What America won't admit, but must at one point in time, is the answer would have been an emphatic yes until you prove otherwise. See, Kevin Durant is not just great because Kevin Durant is a basketball player, and he's a great basketball player. Kevin Durant is great is because he's going about the business of parlaying that success on the basketball court to something far more expansive beyond the court of play, which is what LeBron James has done, Kobe Bryant has done, Shaquille O'Neal has done, and Magic Johnson, of course, and various others. And so it's a lesson to be peeled from all of that. The opportunities are going to come in a variety of forms and fashions. But ultimately, what you do with it matters. What you do with it determines your worth. Because even in the process of being treated well and with adulation pouring down upon you from everywhere, ultimately that ride ends. And then it transitions from adulation to respect. And the respect emanates from what you've done with the opportunities you were blessed with, not just being adulated for having those opportunities and you're in the public eye at that particular moment in time. The only other thing that I would like to say is that as tough as he explains it for himself, for the African-American athlete and beyond, there are times when I wish those same African-American athletes would look at folks in other professions being black. It could be from somebody in a doctor's office. It could be to somebody on Wall Street. It could be somebody sitting in this chair. Because when you're in the public eye and everybody's coming at you, you know, you have a job to do. You got to call it like you see it. But as you can attest to, Max, and you, Molly, because y'all see me on my phone all the time and you know the kind of work that I do. Every single day, myself, the Michael Wilbons, the J.A. Adondes, the Bill Rodens, the Kevin Blackstones, and the list goes on and on and on. There are African Americans that are in positions to disseminate information every single day. And sometimes we got to tell a story, and sometimes it's very flattering, and sometimes it's not. But the bigger quest is to position yourself on behalf of yourself, your company, and more importantly, your community, to be in a position to disseminate information that benefits the collective whole. And sometimes these very athletes that lament how they're viewed upon don't realize they view folks like us and others the same way they lament being viewed themselves. And they don't get that from time to time, and sometimes I wish they did.
You invert the racist idea of the white man's burden. This is the black man's burden, right? We discussed it earlier in the show because you always feel that you can't just behave as an individual, but you're representing a larger group, which has been a persecuted minority. Kevin Durant, you know what this got me thinking of, Stephen A.? Do the Right Thing, where Mookie, you know, Spike Lee's character, who directed the film, obviously, his opus, really, I think, still, is talking to John Turturro's character.
Yep.
In the pizza shop, and John Turturro's playing a racist character.
Yes. And
Mookie says, I don't understand you. Who's your favorite basketball player? Magic Johnson. Who's your favorite actor? Eddie Murphy. Yep. Who's your favorite?
Not black.
Prince. And he says, and he's like, well, he tries to argue for Bruce Springsteen, but he's Prince. You remember that scene, Bruce, right? He says the point is they're all black, and you're racist. He goes, no, they're different. They're different. And Kevin Durant has now experienced this. He's different somehow and realizes now that he is awakening to this. It's life is a journey. It's a process. I've always been treated differently. because he's freakishly tall and amazing athlete. And so he's always been treated differently and has been insulated somewhat. Obviously, you can't be insulated fully from the pernicious effects of institutional racism, but he's been insulated somewhat from it. And the other thing is, it's interesting to me to, and by the way, part of that is because part of the reason, you're taking it from the point of view, well, or do we see them as anything other than commodities? No, not really. People have a use for you, and that's to watch you play basketball. But in another way, that's actually humanizing. Because the same reason that Turturro's character could relate to Eddie Murphy or Magic Johnson or Prince was because he was dealing with them, yes, as idols on the one hand, but also as more than a negative racial stereotype, as a person. He could relate to them more as people because he was familiar with their work or their art. And in that way, sports and Kevin Durant's position can have a very good societal effect because he's in a position where he can get people to relate to him differently than just a stereotype. And that's a good thing. And finally, this journey that they take as players, that a lot of players take, black and white, by the way, they come out of college or high school or 1 year of college in Kevin Durant's case, right? And they're kids. They don't understand the world yet. Who does? He's almost 30 years old. KD has spent like almost a decade in the league, and he's a mature adult compared to the guy who came in. And he's offering a perspective on things as a much more mature person than the guy who first broke into the league. And I find that interesting.
Well, I find it interesting, but I also find it as a reason to applaud him because Kevin Durant has never been in trouble. Kevin Durant has never been somebody that acted the fool. The biggest crime that he's committed basically is, going off on the media, myself included, along with others, because he's perturbed at something we've said. That's about it. LeBron James, the decision in terms of announcing he's going to Miami, that's the worst thing he's done in his career that we know of. And the fact of the matter is, when you consider the bubble that the modern day professional black athlete in the NBA has to live in or under, and the fact that they're such model citizens, there's nothing but applause that you can give to them. In the case of Kevin Durant, obviously, we've been fortunate and blessed enough to have his mom on the show, who's as wonderful as they come. And so where he gets his upbringing from. Gloria James is an absolutely wonderful woman. She's a very, very sweet lady, always been sweet to me. But there's so many people. Dwayne Wade's mother is just, oh, my Lord, she's just great. You see these individuals, and you see where they come from. And it's a beautiful thing to look at their conscience and where it's at, and we applaud it. But in the same breath, it's important for them to understand that what they see for themselves, you do transcend to a point, or you're supposed to transcend to a point where you see the plight of others as well. And I know they see the plight of the African-American community as a whole, but it's not just the impoverished, the desolate, the disenfranchised. It's also people in positions like myself and even the Mike Wilbons and all the other aforementioned individuals in this industry and beyond who have, quote unquote, made it, but still are subjected to the kind of things that they lamented that they're not subjected to. Like, I go through things that LeBron will not go through, or Kevin Durant will not go through. I'm just saying, sitting in my position, the level of scrutiny that I have to do with the corporate America, all of the stuff that comes with it, they don't have to concern themselves. There are layers that they have been blessed to be able to bypass that we still have to deal with. And sometimes there's an absence of sensitivity to the challenges that we face in doing our jobs every single day as conduits of information and imagery and all those other things. And it's not just in this profession. It's in other professions as well. It would be incumbent upon them to realize that, because when you talk about a community coming together to uplift us all, you got to take all of those things into consideration, not just your own.
Regardless of where you are, but it seems like he's awakened to an unfortunate reality that a lot of people were already aware of. We will leave it there. When we come back, no more Fizz with the Grizz. The Grizzlies head coach fired on Monday, but find out why Fizdale isn't the problem in Memphis.